like it's such important information, and it has allowed me to really grow my hair a lot more in protective style.
Me, I can't lie, oh. I like you, girl, in particular.
Hey guys, it's Seun. So let's talk protective styling. Through my experience with a wide range of protective styles, I know what works and what doesn't, and I've really sort of accumulated the secrets to getting the most growth out of these protective styles. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, because no one really talks about this much. The more experience I've had with different types of protective styles, I have realized that they are not all equal, and you are able to retain more length from some than others. Okay, so what is a protective style anyway? It could be something as simple as what I'm doing now, to box braids, sew-ins, wigs, crochet, anything that keeps you from having to do your hair every morning. Why should you protective style your hair? You won't be manipulating your hair as much. The more you manipulate your hair, the more it breaks. So protective styling can be amazing if it's done right, but really tragic if it's done wrong. So the first thing to know about good protective styles that will make you retain as much length as possible is the longer you can keep in the same protective style, the more growth you can retain. And when I say long, I don't mean like 4 months, at least being able to wear it for 1 or 2 months, because whenever you're putting in a protective style and taking one down, you're manipulating your hair, giving it more chances to break. So the longer intervals that you have in between those times, the more you can retain growth. That's not to say that short-term protective styling like this is a bad thing, and I will get into that later. But first, let me talk about long-term. So I'm going to start off by splitting the long-term protective styles into 3 different categories, and I'm going to rank them for you in order of the ability to retain the most length to the least. So the different categories that I will cover are box braids, cornrows, and wigs, weaves, and crochets. So now the third lowest type of long-term protective styling is box braids. So now box braids, of course, are still nice protective style. I am just ranking these in order of the very best to still very good.
The reason why box braids are the lowest long-term protective style is because they're the easiest to mess up. They're really good when you make them big and a little bit looser and don't go too hard on your edges, but when they're small and tight like these, it's so easy for you to pull out your edges. If you notice your braids falling out, chances are your real hair fell out with it. This is so damaging and so bad for your hair.
The category that is above that is cornrows. Cornrow styles can be anything where you're not putting something on top of your cornrows, where you're just doing some type of cornrows. So the only reason cornrows are a little bit less is because your hair is a little bit more exposed to like the elements of daily life whenever you have cornrows that aren't being covered up by a wig, weave, or crochet.
And by this I mean the friction and the damage to your cuticles that happens whenever you rub your head against other surfaces like a seat or your pillow. Also, with cornrows that aren't covered up by other things like wigs or crochet, there's a tendency to want to do more smaller, intricate styles, which can put too much tension on your hair and pull out your edges.
The top. Wigs, weaves, and crochets are what will give you the most length retention. But within the wigs, weaves, and crochet category itself, there is some variances. You can get more out of the different types within that category alone. Within that category, one thing that can help you retain more length is to have less leave out. So with wigs, unless it's a wig, U-part wig, you really don't have much leave out. With crochet, depending on how you do it, you usually don't have to have leave out. Weaves, if you're using my no leave out method or closure or anything, you're not having leave out. And if you have leave out, you'll be manipulating that leave out like every day. But that part of your hair will not get the benefits of a protective style. When I had first started getting into sew-ins, I realized that like this section right here was always so much shorter than the rest of my hair. And it's not like I was treating it badly, but simply from the fact of me combing it every day was allowing it to break. And a lot of the times your texture doesn't match the texture of your own weave, so that can cause you to use heat and stuff like that. Leave out is okay, but you'll get more out of your protective style if you have no leave out at all. Weaves versus crochet versus wigs, say that they all have no leave out. Which is better? Wigs are better. Wigs are only good protective styles if your hair is actually braided down underneath. You're really not getting much as far as a protective style out of your wig if your hair isn't braided down. Every time that you go to bed, you do something, you put your wig on and off, You're allowing your hair to move around and it can become entangled with itself, especially if you're not combing your hair every day, which you shouldn't do in a protective style anyways, because that's the point. At the end of it, your hair will be a tangled mess. So it's very important that you actually cornrow your hair down if you are wearing a wig. I cannot stress that enough. If you're cornrowing your hair down, then a wig is basically the same, or it seems the same as a weave or crochet, but it's slightly not. The reason why is because you're putting less manipulation and friction on your hair by not sewing something onto it or crocheting something onto it. Throughout the duration of your weave, that thread and those tracks will be rubbing against your hair.
And same with crochet. You'll be attaching something to your hair that can rub and pull against it, especially when you're combing or styling your extensions and you tug on your extensions. You're tugging on your hair as well.
But wigs aren't for everyone. I know wigs can be hard to make it look natural, and I don't know, there's something fun about having a weave or a crochet, something that you don't have to take off. That being said, weaves and crochet are still amazing protective styles. These effects aren't that big, but if you're really trying to get the most out of your protective style, this is just what I'm saying. Another really cool thing that I learned about getting the most out of these protective styles is the way your braid pattern works also matters. And I'm not talking about like the size of your braids, but your actual braid pattern. And so what I noticed that really helped my edges a lot is whenever your hair is in braids going this way, it's more easy for your edges to rub out and come out loose versus whenever they're all tucked away in braids going back this way. And whenever your edges are rubbed out and come out loose, then they're not in a protective style anymore, and they're just the same as hair that's just normally out. And especially when you're wearing your bonnet, things like that, there's more rubbing and things like that that's put on your hair.
Also,
I know with weaves especially, sometimes you want to do those smaller braids, trying to get everything to look all flat and everything. Just go for the bigger braids. Bigger braids are honestly so much easier to take down, and they require less tangling whenever you're taking it down, which allows you to retain as much length as possible. Takedown is where you will see the most breakage, so take your time whenever you're taking down these protective styles. Okay, so now let's talk about short-term protective styles, because short-term protective styles are also really important. And I know sometimes it's harder to do these long-term protective styles. Maybe you don't know how to do them on yourself. You have to pay a lot of money to get them done. Maybe there aren't people to get them done around you. You can watch my tutorials, but if you are still struggling with that, there are still options for you to protective style your hair. So what I'm wearing right now is a simple short-term protective style that I'm using to wear in between my longer term protective styles when I still don't really feel like wearing my natural hair just down and having it on my neck, especially because it's hot. And I don't have to do anything to get ready in the morning. I keep it like this. So it's very important that even if you can't do a long-term protective style, just do a short-term protective style every now and then. So just putting less manipulation on your hair is what makes a protective style, and it can be anything. The longer it is, the better, but sometimes that doesn't work for everyone, so short is okay too. Trust me, I have learned a lot of things myself from literally just trying a bunch of things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't, accidentally doing something and realizing, hey, my hair just grew a lot. I wonder what caused that. I'm really thinking and breaking down the different protective styles that I did and looking at what could have caused this growth, which is why I wrote all of this stuff down, as much information as possible to put out this video for you guys and tell you guys about protective styling. So I hope it helped you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching.
here are some protective styles for you guys to try, and stay tuned for my future video where I talk about maintenance for protective styles, because a protective style is only as good as how you maintain it. You can do the best protective style, but if you're not maintaining it right, you won't see any growth. So yeah, see you in the next one.